Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Entertainment news today. You're such a dragon gay. Everything sucks and it's no good. That comes out of Hollywood. But there's one place you can go to get all your news and info, and maybe even have a laugh or two. You know it's true. Midnight Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight Edge after dark. All those bombs and flops, but need never stops. We will keep going through the night as we keep up the culture fight. Midnight's Edge after dark is life. We stand for nerds and geeks, we will survive. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, it's Midnight's Edge after dark.
Welcome once again. It's Tuesday. Time for the best show on the interwebs, at least according to me. We have Scribe Light with us. How you doing?
Doing all right. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Tuesday. That's right, it's Tuesday. Remind myself.
It is Tuesday.
Tuesday. Not Three's Day, not Four's Day, Tuesday.
Tuesday. We have CC here. How you doing, Canadian?
Hey, I'm back. Doing all right. You know, just working. Been on a channel grind.
Hey.
All that. I'm waiting for my paycheck, but I can't receive it because Canada Post is still on strike. So that's aggravating.
Hell no, we won't go, eh?
Yeah.
Maybe they should do direct deposit.
You would think.
Yeah.
But then, then it's all in the system, and
Yeah, fuck the system. We also have with us Price of Reason. Speaking of money, the price of reason is everything.
How's it going, man?
It's going. I'm finishing up my supper. Seeing we got a great crowd filing in here. Yes, we do indeed miss and love Clobby, especially this time of the year. We always miss those who we've lost who are closest to us on the holiday seasons. It always sucks. So if anybody out there is missing someone, we understand, and yeah, our thoughts are go out to you on this holiday season. But hey, life must go on, and we must talk about news, and we got some news, kids. Boy, did I think this was going to be a slow week. Well, honestly, I don't know if we could have predicted some of this news better than what it actually is. But to kick things off here, Let's say hello to everybody. We got Dark Hierophant in the chat. We got Many Dragon here. We got Sander Hammerslag here as well. We got Miranda Stone. We got Corleone Rogue. Malachi D. Wildman. How you been? We got Bryant Barth in the house. Phoenix Knight is here. Deeple 101 is here as well. Patrick Robinson's here. Jeremy Winfield is here. Beep Bop Boop is hanging out. How you doing? Beep Bop Boop. Lombardi's 1969 is here. Yekno Mino. How you been? Ain't seen you in a tick. Unless you've just been listening and not commenting as much. We got FKHC 2005. I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen Hamdinger here yet. Hopefully he's doing all right. But we got some more regulars. I see Ace Hanlon. ActionCom is here. And you know who else is here? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome all 32 flavors of Nick Weiser! They love you.
Tom, I promised when I'd come, and I did, right on time for you.
True story.
Weird.
You said 20
weird.
after.
What's up, chat? Hello, panel. We got a bevy of stuff, so I won't say too much now. I'll save it for the topics. But yeah, once again, hello.
Indeedy do. We don't have any super chats or member chats to get into right away, so
Not yet, boo-boo.
we'll just break right into news. Your timing is actually pretty good. We were about to talk about a new trailer that got released today.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a little bit of talk in recent weeks. Danny Boyle has been talking about a third/second film in the 28 franchise. I guess my understanding, I've never, okay, full disclosure, confession time, I've never seen 28 Days Later, and I've never seen 28 Weeks Later, and I probably won't see 28 Years Later.
I've never seen those either. Confession. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but I never got a chance
What?
to watch them. Yeah, sorry, I never got a
I
chance
really
to watch
need
them.
to watch them.
In my
Okay.
defense, they've been out of print for a while, and I think we were talking about this before the show. I know the rights are all over the place because, like, the first film was released by like Fox Searchlight.
Yeah.
Then I think Sony bought the rights for the second film, and now Sony's releasing this one. But the reason that the first film or the first two films have been out of print is because Fox owns them or whatever. I have no idea. Disney.
Yeah.
That's all I know. But that being said, the other reason is I'm not that big of a zombie fan. I know that's kind of hard to believe, but outside of the Romero zombies and the ones that are kind of tangentially connected to that, I'm not really all that into it. It's just because to me, they're just kind of, they're the laziest of the monsters. I don't know if that
It's
makes
been
sense to
overdone.
anybody.
It's
That
been
too.
overdone. Yeah, I mean,
like Night of the
yeah,
Living Dead.
the classics, classic Romero.
That's what I mean. The Romero zombies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Classic Romero's fine. I didn't like the remake of was it Day of the Dead or Return of the Living, whatever there was that Zack
Dawn of
Snyder
the-
did it.
Dawn of the
Sorry,
Dead,
Dawn,
yeah.
yeah, the Dawn of the Dead remake. I did not like that. I don't like fast zombies. In this case, they make a different excuse for quote unquote the zombies, so it was tolerable. It was the first movie really leaned on the performances and the atmosphere more than anything else, and that really made it much more interesting to me as a apocalypse zombie type movie. And that's really the hallmark of a good zombie movie, because it's not really the zombies, it's the characters you're following amidst the crisis that carries it.
Right.
That's why the original Dawn of the Dead worked so well. And so the first 28 Days Later worked really well for that. And they weren't zombies per se, which is why I'm very bewildered as to how the story of this movie even exists in the lore, but maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah, because there has been some talk that part 2 might be overlooked completely, but I don't know. I have no idea. So, for those who actually are fans of this and want to talk about it, Nick, I don't know if you've seen the first two. If you're a fan at all, let's start with you there at the bottom, since you're the last one here.
Yes,
What'd you
sir.
think of the trailer?
I was just about to watch it because I actually do like the first movie a lot. I'm a huge fan
Okay,
of
we can come
it.
back to you if you need to go watch it quick.
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes because I love the first movie. I thought the second was okay. I think it seems to get a lot of hate. I don't think it's that necessary, but it's fine. But yeah, let me watch this trailer.
So while we're waiting for Nick, Price, what did you think of it overall?
Over which one?
Did you like this trailer? Does it make you want to go back and see the first two? Or
I didn't see the trailer, and I didn't see the first two. I'm trying not to look at it because
Oh
I
my
don't want to
gosh.
spoil it in case I ever want to watch the
all
first.
right.
Is it just me and CC are the only ones here that
I
have
think
any
so.
reference?
So go ahead, boys. CC, what'd you think?
Yeah, just spoiler alert, the trailer doesn't really spoil anything. So, feel free to watch it. But the first movie, 28 Days Later, definitely one of my favorite zombie movies. Just to echo what Scribelight said, very, very strong in the acting, the directing, the atmosphere. It's I would say that first impression is that it's less of a zombie movie, but a movie with zombies in it, if that makes sense. The second movie I did watch once and I forgot it by the next day. So I can't really say as much on that one. I don't know if it's good or if it's not. I just forgot that it exists. I don't know if this movie will forget that the second movie exists, but I don't, whatever. We were talking backstage before the show that was not directed by the creator of the franchise. So we'll see what happens with that. But for this trailer, I love the trailer. This is actually, I had this feeling like, wow, I'm excited for a movie. When was the last time that I saw a trailer and it made me really want to go see it? And I got that from this trailer. I liked it a lot.
My only thought watching the trailer was somebody's trying to catch up to The Last of Us, because that's what it felt like when you saw Aaron Taylor Johnson with that youngster, and they have the bows and arrows, and they're wandering through the woods, and it's post-apocalyptic. And the first movie was great as a post-apocalyptic movie with quote-unquote zombies, except they were infected. It wasn't, and this is the part, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen a movie that's now how old is 28 Days Later? 20 years ago
I
or
think
something?
it literally is 28 years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, but
yeah.
So spoiler alert. But the
or
zombies,
at least close to 20 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, the zombies in this universe are not zombies. They are people who are infected, and they lose their minds, and they become it's basically like super rabies, and it is highly contagious by bites and transfer of bodily fluids. But the problem is that they're still human. They're not some immortal supernatural monsters or something.
So they can be changed back, basically, is what you're saying.
No, they can't be changed back, but they die.
Okay.
They starve and they die because they're just mortal. If you shoot them, they die. That's it. And they eventually will starve and die because they can't survive simply on ravaging other living things alone. So
okay.
the premise of the second movie, or the one thing that kept it going, the sort of the MacGuffin of the whole thing, is that you can be a asymptomatic carrier of the disease, and that perpetuates it further into the world from where it originally broke out in the UK. And that was that's the one clear thing I remember about the second movie is the ending shot where suddenly there's a bunch of crazy people running around in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. But that aside, unless they're going to change something drastically about the disease. I mean, this looks like, obviously, it's 28 years later, so it's 30 years after the fact. Obviously, the disease has basically ravaged the human population. You've got basically a Dark Ages bubonic plague kind of thing going on, as far as I can tell. So I guess they must have changed.
Savant says they're not dead. So, they're not undead. That makes
right,
sense.
They're not supernatural.
Right.
They're not supernaturally alive or anything. They have a lifespan. They will either age or be injured or starve. But this looks like 28 years The Last of Us so far. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, Last of Us, you could probably argue, is probably inspired by 20.
Sure. Yeah.
Later,
it could be a whole circular thing, but I'm not sure just what new they can do with this story that we haven't. I know every story's already been told, but within this particular universe, it's like, okay, so you get infected, you eventually starve or die. Where is the remaining population of infected coming from 28 years after the fact? I guess in my mind, mathematically,
break or something like that.
Yeah, mathematically speaking, I'm not quite sure how they're going to explain decades after the fact that something that effectively acts like Ebola as far as its spread.
Oh, I can
hasn't-
think of a few ways.
Yeah, no, I know there could be some plot or something, but how it hasn't burned itself out at this point. That's my first
Yeah, well,
wonderment.
yeah. Basically, you have it to where they figured out how to stop it then, 28 years ago, but now it's broke out again here. A couple years later. Look at. I mean, coming off of COVID and shit, I'm not surprised this movie got a sequel. I know there's been a lot of talk about it for a while. And this movie came out around the same time as 30 Days of Night, and a lot of people told me I got to see both of these films, and I was just very resistant of both for the same basic reasons. I'm kind of tired of played out of the zombie / vampire kind of thing for a while there, especially back then. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Maybe if I get a chance to, I'll check it out. Maybe Disney will actually re-release the movie again. I see some people in the chat saying they have the movie. Well, if you do, you're lucky. I know it goes for a pretty penny right now on eBay. So yeah.
I got a
But with that,
I got a sense from the trailer that they might do a human versus human thing.
Hmm.
Which I mean, that's definitely a low hanging fruit. Whether it's like Scribes, you get the scene with the arrows running through the field. I mean, it can get pretty hammy, it can get pretty dumb, but
yeah, I'm not always a fan of when you have already like a monster versus human or supernatural entity or what have you, or the best example being Jurassic Park. I'm so tired of always having like some random bad guy for no good reason.
Well, this is season 3 of
Like,
The Walking
you already
Dead.
got a
I didn't
villain.
enjoy it. I know that's part of the story is human versus human in that too, but I didn't like it as much as the first 2 seasons simply because it was human versus human.
I mean, I'm not saying
that
that
kind of-
society wouldn't break down that way, but like
I'm
you
all
got
for
enough
Mad
problems,
Max.
right? Like
I mean, if you
right.
go Road Warrior with it, you can do something really cool, right? But
One good
what I will-
example is how. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, CC.
I'll just say my other observation with the trailer: practical effects every which way. I did
Yeah.
not see a whole lot of special effects going on there.
From what I could
Yeah,
see
Dan-
of it from
Yeah, Danny Boyle. I mean, whatever else about the film, the plot or otherwise. I mean, I don't think I've seen a Danny Boyle movie that I haven't enjoyed in some way, shape, or form because of its attention to detail and just the way that it's done. Like I think of Sunshine.
Well, the beach was crappy.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's still a movie people remember despite how crappy it is.
It was really, really bad.
Yeah. Well.
But it
So
was a
good, kind
rare
of bad.
loss. It was a rare L for Danny Boyle. I'll give you that.
We'll have to see how this rolls, but I think it's going to do well. CC has been a member for 27 months, and he's on the panel. Deeple101 says with $2, Tom demands super chats. Well, I don't demand them, but they are very welcomed. Bacon is delicious. Hail all. I can't argue with that. I cannot argue with that. I know some people like who are Muslim or whatever who secretly eat bacon but don't tell anybody. Yeah. Beat Bop Boop sends it for £1.4.99. 28 days later rivals Romero in my opinion. Well, that is your opinion. You need to watch it. 28 weeks isn't as good, but it's still decent. It has one of the GOAT opening scenes. Yeah, again, it's not like I actively avoided it per se. I just didn't go out of my way to watch it.
He sounds
You know,
like
I mean, I
he's got
could've-
pretty.
Go ahead.
He sounds like he's got pretty much a similar opinion. I mean, like, it seems like the second one definitely got some heat, but I thought it was fine. Like, maybe you say I was.
Oh yeah, you're back. What did you think of the trailer, Nick? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Watch it, trailer. It was a bunch of clips of looks like things that's gonna be happening in the movie, but I don't really understand what the story is because there wasn't really. I mean, you saw
Like Nick's
few
review.
people
Look,
speak.
there's things happening in the movie, okay?
Yeah,
Like-
I was like, well, usually when you watch, these trailers, you get an idea. Like they kind of give you a basic idea. It's like, okay, we know there's a zombie outbreak, and this time it's weeks. Became months, became years. Okay, great, but I don't know. Is it like a thread that's supposed to connect these two? And they didn't give any idea. Which I'm not like mad about, but it's kind of like, okay, I don't know what this is about and what caused the outbreak. Because usually in the first trailers, they kind of give you at least some basic ideas. That said, I mean, it looks okay. I'll end up seeing it. I do like Aaron Taylor Johnson. I actually said his name right, didn't butcher it.
Now, has he been
see
in
it.
any of the ones before, or is this the first time?
No.
I
he's been in
don't
one?
recall him being in the previous two. I think
No.
I'm surprised they didn't get Cillian Murphy back for this.
He
third
is
movie.
actually
Oh,
in
he is.
it.
I didn't see him in the trailer.
Yeah, he's a
he is-
zombie.
I was gonna say there's a bit of a spoiler
Oh.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is why I think that maybe they must have changed the lore a little bit, because the way that he's looking, or at least what we presume to be Cillian Murphy, that looks like it's on the edge of supernatural survival for a zombie. So I'm wondering if they didn't change the recipe of exactly how the virus works.
Yeah.
Either way, it looks okay. It's hard to tell because it was just like a whole clip of a bunch of very split-second clips.
They
Well-
probably changed it so that Killian could be in the movie.
Probably.
Maybe.
I mean, like I said, they'd have to come up with some reason as to why the outbreak or the virus is still a problem 28 years after the fact, when the survivors must know at this point where the danger zones are. And it's going to die off, conceivably, the way that they set it up in the first movie. So,
Yeah. I mean, look, stuff happens in the trailer.
I like the fact that there seems to be some kind of cult in there. They show some some cult type thing going on. I had a plot line idea for a role playing game years ago in a zombie apocalypse, where some crazy cultists thought that the zombies were actually lost souls. So this crazy cult started collecting the lost souls as though that was their job, as deemed by their deity. And so you had these people farming zombies in this giant like compound, waiting for the rapture to come or something. I always thought that'd be a kind of cool idea for a zombie cult.
That's actually one conflict I got out of the trailer. I loved that scene where they have like this kind of rustic encampment, on the beach, and they got to defend it, right, with the limited tools they should have at their disposal after all this time. And then you also have this scene where you have like decked out commandos with guns, and I'm like, okay, so what exactly is the state of technology?
Yeah,
here?
who's maintaining all that stuff 28 years after the fact, with the fall of civilization and technology and everything? That was the one question I had, is like, is that a flashback, or is that happening right now? And what enclave still maintains their equipment where it looks like it just came off of the assembly line?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's why I say I really like Alien 3. I know that it's not everyone's favorite movie in the franchise.
Oh, I love
It's
Alien
not my very favorite in the franchise, but what they did with that movie is they took all of like the high-tech weaponry out of it, and they just put people with nothing really
Right, back to basics.
basic.
Yeah.
And that really, for me, that elevated the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's why I thought when I found they're going to do 28 years later, I remember when I first heard about it before there's any footage or anything, my first thought was, is the setting going to be like Reign of Fire, where it's basically like a Dark Ages kind of thing, but with a few little modern elements, but it's so back to basics that there's nothing left. In portions, it seems like that's what it is. When you got like people walking around with arrows and bows and everything, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I hope they don't just have the commandos come in and protect the camp, because that just dismantles all of the tension of not having that at your disposal.
Well, I'm just wondering if it's going to be similar to, like I say, Reign of Fire, where you have sort of the people who have gone native or back to basics, and then you have that one faction of the remnant enclave or whatever, like from Fallout, coming in and trying to save everybody, and that becomes the human conflict between the two cultures.
Could see that.
All right. Well, Lost for Words has been here for 33 months, and we appreciate that. And speaking of the Taylor Johnson dude,
Yeah.
things aren't looking too bright for Kraven.
Nope. Unfortunately, or the Sonyverse writ large.
Yeah. Well, let's take this first off with the fact that nobody is surprised that Kraven is set to bow with a very weak $50 million opening. And in fact, I heard it dropped a bunch of theaters already.
Wow, how does that compare to Madam Web as its opening?
Not good.
Oh, wow.
Madam Web did the same, basically 15 million. So right on.
I didn't
Oh.
know this was even coming out right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
it comes out this weekend, I believe.
See, I like Kraven the character from the comic book, so I kind of had, I guess, a bias towards this one doing at least better than Madam Web or Morbius just because he's a more established and a character that I like.
I thought
a lot
maybe there
more.
was a wild card here with this one, considering he's not as well known. And looking at the trailer, Aaron Taylor Johnson's well enough known that you could see this is kind of like a Punisher slash, Death
Equalizer
Wish
kind of
slash
thing,
John
yeah.
Wick, Equalizer kind of thing, to where it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter if you know the character or not. But I don't think that's helping it, obviously, at this point. So yeah, I don't think anybody's real surprised by this. But the other part of this story is it's starting to looks like it's coming down from the top over at Sony, according to Rap Pro. We got Humberto Gonzalez over there talking about how Kraven will be final bow for now for Sony's Marvel Universe, or whatever you want to call it. Andre's been lovingly call it the Venomverse.
Sure.
I've been calling it just the Spider-Verse or whatever.
All
It
for the
doesn't really
best,
matter.
honestly. It was such a mishmash, disorganized glut of ideas and things that until somebody comes in that can actually work with Disney Marvel to make something that could work alongside one another, or Sony just gets Spider-Man back full time and can make their own actual contiguous storyline. It just doesn't. These things never made a whole lot of sense to me.
Well, and I love how they actually explain this here. They don't say the obvious. Sony Pictures surprise panel for Kraven, the studio's latest non-Spider-Man Marvel movie. Why don't you just call it a non-Spider-Man Spider-Man movie? Because it's barely Marvel, right? Because these don't really connect to the MCU overall. Spider-Man is the only thing that does. So,
and besides, Sony only has rights to the Spider characters and ensemble. They don't have rights to anything else outside of that, so they can't like mention Captain America or have a glimpse of Iron Man in the background, really, unless they really pay out to Marvel or have some other deal going on. So it has to be this sort of cloistered universe centering around this one villain and maybe the allusion to Spider-Man on the side without actually showing him. So it's very limited.
So yeah, I mean, is anybody really surprised that this is most likely the end of the extended Spider-Man universe, or whatever the fuck you want to call it? Over at
It was
Sony?
an ill-advised idea always, and it was always just them trying to cash in on how popular the MCU was. But I think that the MCU just isn't that popular, and now
not anymore. Yeah.
not anymore. And certainly these kind of like, villains, whatever they were doing here, it was really like a pathetic idea. And because they got away with Venom and they made a few dollars, it went to their head. And they're like, we can do this with everyone. Let's just bring all these villains. And it was a crappy idea.
Bryce, I see your point on the Venom and the idea got their head, but here's the thing: I think it got their head even before Venom, and here's why. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to 2013, 2014. Rather, the Amazing Spider-Man did hit theaters at the box office, the Andrew Garfield flick. It did fairly well. It wasn't like a roaring smash hit, but it did fine, and they were already immediately talking like 3 sequels to that particular set of Spider-Man movies. They were talking about a Sinister Six movie as well on top of that. And that when you watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the movie is basically a trailer for other things.
Yeah.
And then there's the Sony leaks that came out in 2014. And you could see there was talk about a Silver Sable and a Black Hat movie. I think they were called Silver and Black. Then there's another one where they're saying, there's talks. Apparently, they were talking about doing an Aunt May movie. They're like, that's not true. And also, a week later, it turns out that it was true, that they were even doing something on Aunt May. They were coming out with ideas left and right because once the Avengers took off, they were like, we got to figure out whatever we need to do to have our own universe. And even if it is just ultimately Spider-Man and his cast, we'll make a universe out of it anyways, and nothing was going to stop them from that. At least with the Sinister Six, they had a decent writer in Drew Goddard at the time, but even then, that idea should have not been a movie because they were talking about having them have a redemption journey. I don't need my Doc Ock redeemed. You want to save that arc for another villain? There's more than enough villains you could do that for. And you could probably even make an argument they kind of already was in Spider-Man 2, but I need my Otto Octavius to be evil again. Full on evil. This is something Sony's been cocky on just because they have Spider-Man. If it's clear that they are aware that Spider-Man is Marvel's top dog. Hence why Marvel was willing to give them $1 billion or $2 billion just to buy out the character. They know the value that they have at their hand. They just don't realize that they can only pull this off with Spider-Man and barely Venom.
Yeah, and the Sinister
and I
Six makes
also-
no. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I also don't think Spider-Man's worth as much without the MCU. But go ahead.
Well, no, I mean the Spider-Man being sort of. In a lot of ways, Spider-Man was kind of like the Forrest Gump of the Marvel Universe in those early days, because he always be the one that crosses over and sort of interacts with the Fantastic Four and this, that, and that became kind of the through line for a lot of things. That he was the teenager that sort of ended up as the stowaway on other superhero ships and crossovers and things, and that was always nice. But yeah, Spider-Man works better within the Marvel Universe, and all of Spider-Man's enemies only work with Spider-Man present. The Sinister Six came together to fight Spider-Man because they knew they couldn't take him on alone. They were like the anti-Avengers, right? To take on the heroes that nobody else could take on alone. Yeah.
Doc Ock was the villain who knew him the best. Doc Ock was outside of the Green Goblin. Doc Ock was considered the number 2 villain, and Doc was the other villain who came close to beating Spidey. So it was like, okay, why not go with Doc Ock? Because he's the one guy who came close.
Yeah, and in that Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, they intimated that that Oscorp was going to just give the Sinister Six powers to people individually rather than having their own origin stories. It made no sense. Yeah.
Did they have Scorpion's tail as well? I think it was crazy.
I remember Vulture's.
Oh, that's what it was. Vulture wings. Maybe that's what
You had Vulture's wings. You had Dr. Octopus's arms. There were a couple other things in there. There was some hint that Kraven was going to somehow come. And anyway, it was nonsense. Like I said on the other show, you have if you're going to do a Spider-Verse, you have to do a reverse Avengers. You have to start with Spider-Man fighting the villain mano a mano, and then sort of like with Batman and the Penguin, if the character can stand on its own in their matchup against the hero, then you do a spin-off little mini adventure of that character by themselves in their own film. You don't start off with the villain origin story trying to make them the protagonist and sympathetic. They have to be a villain, and then when you spin them off, they have to remain a villain. That's why Penguin worked so well. By the end of the Penguin series, you don't have any sympathy for the Penguin, but you're still fascinated with the character.
Yep. Just when you thought they were gonna be, they're gonna totally go in on the sympathetic arc, and like they tease you with it, but then you come out of the show by the end of the last episode and you realize how truly despicable he was. And the funny part is, Colin Farrell told people you're gonna hate him, and I honestly was like, I'm starting to wonder if he was just looking a big game. Nope, he was right. He was right. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I heard what you said, Scribe. I want to add to that because here's the thing. Spider-Man does work well on his own, not in terms of like needing like a universe filled with different movies, but he has a supporting cast. He's had, a murderer's row of girlfriends. He has one of the best Rose Gallery villains in not just comic books, arguably, and throughout, I'd say, fictional history. He's got a very relatable story that almost anyone could connect to. He works very well on his own. That's the beauty of a character like Spider-Man. You can put him in a street level adventure. It'll work. You can have a very personal story that more so has to be Peter Parker driven. It can work. You can put Spider-Man in a situation where he has a table with like a cosmic hero and it will work. Spider-Man is a rare one size fits all character. That's the value and beauty of Spider-Man. But that value and beauty has been overexploited by Sony. I mean, that's why they try to rush Venom into the third movie, even though Sam Raimi was outspoken dating back to interviews of the first movie where he said himself, I'm not a fan of this character. You know what? If you're not a fan of that character, that's fine. You write your opinion. But then if you're not a fan of the character, why shoehorn that character in if you're not a fan? Obviously, it's an Avi Arad move. But you see what happens when that type of stuff gets shoehorned in. You got a guy who's worked with something he's not fond of, and it derailed his story. It derailed Sam Raimi's story, and that was in shambles thanks to Avi Arad. So Sony's been cocky for a long, long time. I've paid attention to the Sony history of Spider-Man for a long time. This is one of those things where I could talk all damn day about this. Go ahead and continue, Scribe. I just want to add that in because I felt like that was important.
All right.
Oh.
Well, did anybody else have anything else to say about the Sony Venom verse or whatever the hell you want to call it?
All right, who was dumb enough to have the confidence to put this in December?
Avi Arad.
A Christmas movie, like really?
Avi Arad.
Yeah.
What's the other
Well,
way?
it got
Is
pushed
Lauren
back. I think wasn't it supposed to
Schuler
be
Donner?
out in July originally?
Yes,
Yeah, I
it
think
was
so.
August. It was
Well,
supposed to be
that would have been
August.
pretty ambitious too.
It was supposed to be August. I remember that. Just like
Okay.
how they originally had Morbius was supposed to come on like what 2019 or 2020. Then they added in the previews. You remember the Morbius trailer where they had a photo of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man on the wall of a building in New York City, but yet they showed off buildings from the Andrew Garfield universe. So it was like, hold on, you see a drawing of Spider-Man of the Sam Raimi, but you see buildings from the Andrew Garfield. And that's when I came up with my popular statement that seems to have aged well is Morbius in the Spider-Man universe? Yes, it's not.
And then the Vulture shows up, and it makes even less sense because whatever.
Took my
it
brain a
made
couple of
no
seconds there.
sense at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. I was kind of predicting this was going to happen. I think on the morning show either yesterday or Monday, Friday, I can't remember which, when Kraven come up, I'd kind of said I would not be surprised if Rothman just puts an end to all this shit real quick. And it happened. Like, I mean, he's not even waiting for fucking Kraven to come out.
No,
Right?
Sony can probably make more reliable money just licensing this stuff out to Disney for the rest of the.
And that's pretty
next
much what the
20
end
years.
of the article says here is they're concentrating more on Spider-Man 4
Yeah.
and the Venomverse, Spider-Verse movies, which they should have been. As much as I hate them,
Yeah.
like
At
I'm
least
sitting here
they
going,
make
"What
money.
the fuck are you doing? Not getting your third film?" They set it up as a two-parter. How did they not record both at the same time and start animating both at the same?
Yeah, that was weird.
That's the one thing that makes absolutely no fucking sense for me because it's going to be another year or two or better, actually, before Spider-Verse 3 comes out.
Yeah, I remember when they announced the sequel. They
The
announced
kids
them
that watch the
separately.
first movie in
Sorry.
theaters are going to be teenagers by the time it gets out.
I mean, no, it's not like something like that can't work. They should have not announced the sequels together. They should have announced just the second movie and maybe have, from what it sounds like, because from what I've gathered, it seems like the movie ends on not an actual ending. So they should just announce the second movie and then say, "Oh, this one did really well," because obviously it did. We're gonna get to work on a third movie, but they announced both movies at the same time. Said they were gonna come out within 8 or 9 months of each other, and then what was it like? Was it a few weeks before, a few weeks after Across came out? That's when they announced that Beyond was going to be delayed indefinitely.
Yeah, which I couldn't understand.
No.
Because, I mean, as much as I didn't like the
And
films.
you were ahead of that, Tom. Don't you remember? You said, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm hearing some funky things." I was like, "Oh, I wonder
Because
how
I
that's
couldn't
gonna
believe it
happen."
at first. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? That makes
Mhm.
absolutely no sense.
Mhm.
Right? So this just goes to show you that, honestly, even with my bias against the movies, I couldn't even believe when I heard that, they hadn't. And then there was the actor that come out and said that they hadn't recorded their lines yet for the third film. And then rumors and news started coming out that, the movie's being pushed back now or they don't have it ready yet. And it's not like there's some little production company that needed to get the first two movies out there to make a third film, right? What are they waiting for? Like, that's what I kept saying to myself. What are they waiting for? Like, this is an animated film. Literally, you don't have to even have the actors together. So
No, you really don't.
they can record their audio from just about anywhere in the world. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
Dude,
Right.
it's a mess. And this is the one thing that they should be given all the time, and I guess you could say concentration.
agreed.
And,
I hated the first
inspection
movie,
with a microscope.
but I
Instead,
can't
they're-
even deny how big that second one was.
Oh yeah, it was.
I mean, the thing
gigantic.
is
It
that
was
I don't love
huge.
either of them, but yeah, they're successful.
And how much did they cost? They weren't that expensive.
They weren't
were
No,
that
they were
expensive to
relatively
make.
cheap. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
listen, they're all right. I think that they're overhyped. They're fine for whatever they're supposed to be. but I don't think they're as good as people say they are. They're just all right. But it's making money for the studio. Why not use that?
Yeah, and I know
that
it's an
shit
average of
is-
2 to 3 years at least, got us a win for animated films, but if they had made these two movies together, amortized the whole cost and time and effort,
Yeah.
we'd be getting ready to see the third film, or the third film would already been out this summer.
Yeah, I get it, and that's why it brings it back to my original point. I get it. Yes, animation does take a long time. That's obviously true. Look at for an example, go look at articles of when, and this is just a comparison here. When Invincible season 1 came out, and they officially gave the green light for seasons 2 and 3 at the same time. And season 2 came out about, wrapped up earlier this year. And guess what's coming in March of 2025 or February, either or. It's coming in 3 months. Invincible season 3, when they announced them both at the same time. And yet there's still a little bit over a year gap. And I feel like, okay, it's clear that they got straight to work as soon as they were done on 2, and they went straight into 3. And now we only have a year gap because there was a longer gap between 1 and 2, like 2.5 years when I get technical. And all of a sudden, boom, we got a 1-year gap for the seasons. And, they could have learned from that. And it's clear that worked out for them to just get to work. Like Tom said, they should have just gone to work. Or they should have just announced the second movie. They could just announce the second movie, leave people on the cliffhanger, and then, okay, boom, third movie's coming.
Well, that was a lot of people's biggest complaint, was that it is left as a cliffhanger. And honestly, what is kind of funky about this is I'm willing to bet that we get at least 1 or 2 more Garfield movies before we get another Spider-Verse movie, which is fucked up. Now, I know it's technically, I think, a different animation studio that works on it, but it's still Sony, right? And the big difference here, and I said this, and I keep bringing it up to people, is one of the biggest or most profitable films of the last year was Garfield. People don't realize it because it only cost $30 million to make.
Yeah,
And it made like what?
Movie.
$400 $400 million, I think, at the box office. And then they sold it to Netflix for, I think, $40 million. So that didn't even cost them anything to make. They made $10 million before it even hit theaters. So, why is that not what they're doing with Spider-Verse? I don't understand. But anyway, that being said, I want to thank Price for the extra help on this article here, even though we didn't really read into it. But there was a few things I went through it as we were.
It had some nice pictures in it.
Well, and it just basically confirms a lot of the information, and that's what I wanted, because there's not many write-ups about it yet. But speaking of the MCU, we're going to get into that a little bit more here in just a moment, but we got a couple super chats I want to grab before we do go into it. Jason Webster says, for 2025, I'm really intrigued in seeing 28 Years Later, which we just talked about, The Gorge, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, that's what I'm looking forward to, The Accountant 2, and Megan 2.0. Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with Megan 2.0. Jason Webster says, with South Korean films releases for early 2025, I'm intrigued by K-horror Dark Nuns, starring Sung Hee Kyu? Probably fucked that up. The Glory. And Jean Yobin from Vincenzo. So there you go. That's Jason Webster's anticipated films for the next year. So there you go. And with that, let's get into this next story, unless anybody had anything else to say about Spider-Man. Did you, Nick, or anybody else?
I've said a lot of say on this.
CC, you've been kind of quiet about it.
Actually, are we gonna do another one of those look ahead at 2025 film releases thing like we did last year?
Oh yeah,
Probably when things get slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the next week or so, maybe even this Thursday. Maybe that's what we'll do.
I'll be here
but
Thursday.
Speaking of movies that are ahead, and this is coming, another one that's no surprise. Chris Evans will return in Marvel's Avengers Doomsday. Now,
Oh my God.
he was, of course, most recently in Deadpool and Wolverine as Johnny Storm. So this isn't a huge surprise. Now, what we don't know is... Yeah, and well, I mean, as far as MCU films.
Yeah.
Now, we don't exactly know what role he's going to play. The rumor going around is it will not be Captain America. Or if it is, it's the Hydra version. Which, if that's true, that's really going to piss me off, because we still haven't got the story of him putting the fucking stones back yet.
Now, how much money in a dump truck do you think they drove up to his door for this?
Not nearly as much as Robert
You don't
Downey
think so?
Jr.
Well, no. Artie. Yeah, no.
Pinto's worth of money.
No. Yeah, our RDJ had a fleet of U-Haul trucks with cash
It's like,
in them
here,
showing
take
up.
it or leave it, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
we want you
really,
back, but
Chris
not
Evans-
that bad.
Chris Evans,
Captain
since he
Hydra.
left, I think that he thought that he would be more in demand. But Chris Evans was never the actor that Robert Downey Jr. was.
Well, fairly, he's done, I think, the Knives Out movie. He's done a few other things. He's got Red One out right now. He's worked consistently.
Yeah,
But
But
he's
you're
never
right. He's
stopped
not a
working.
leading. He's not
not
the
a leading man.
And
No.
neither.
He
And I got to
never
remind
was.
people that Robert Downey Jr. never was either. And that's
Yep.
why all of his films outside the MCU have failed. Besides
Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
Sherlock Holmes
And
did okay.
Oppenheimer.
Well, yeah, but he's an ensemble cast in that. I don't even
Right, but
consider that
Sherlock
his
Holmes, he
film.
did okay.
That's what
can
I mean.
still
That's
take-
his only success.
First
Yeah.
one.
I can still take Robert Downey Jr. seriously as Iron Man. I'm not sure I can take Chris Evans seriously as Captain America anymore.
Or
After
Captain
the
Hydra, for
last
crying out
few
loud.
Years.
Yeah, they will definitely do.
And you know they've been
I'll
wanting
be
to do
shocked if
that.
they don't.
Yeah. Nick, go ahead. I was going to say, you know, they've been wanting
Also,
to do
Robert
that.
Downey
Yeah.
Jr. played Chaplin. He was the lead in that, and he was good in that movie. It's not true. He's a character actor, but you can let him lead a movie too. Chris Evans can't do characters. He's just not that good of an actor, and he never was. Like
He's
Captain
great
America, he went to the
America
gym, he looked
actor.
the part, and he did well enough for us to buy it. But he's not like a spectacular actor. He never was.
he's not a spectacular actor. He's a great Captain America actor. He's a great Captain America.
Yes.
He's got the voice. He's got the ability. He's got
Right.
the look. He
Yes.
did the great moves.
He's
with
all
the
right. He's
shield.
got a decent timing, sense of humor wise, and
He
Yeah,
was
his
good in that
humor was
role.
good.
Sometimes there's a
there's-
person that's good in one role. I agree with Nick. He was a great
Yes.
Captain America.
That was his literal strength, was that he was great as Captain America. Outside of that, he is
well, what's
not
funny is
really
he plays like
done
basically
much.
the opposite of that in every other role he's ever been in prior
Yeah.
to and since,
now. I'll admit,
other than Johnny
I
Storm,
thought
really.
he was okay as Johnny Storm. I thought he was okay. It wasn't like great to me.
He was
Definitely
okay as
not-
Johnny Storm. That's probably his second best. He was okay as Johnny
Yeah.
Storm. He was really good as Captain
But that's
America.
still not great. But regardless, back to the point here. Chris Evans needs this just as much as Marvel does. I probably even make the argument that Evans needs this even more because, as you guys have mentioned,
Yes.
very so eloquently, his career has not done great. I mean, yeah, he's been in the only things that have done well are things that he's been an ensemble and Red One, the first Knives Out, but anything that he's been a leading role in, it has tanked, hugely flopped, big bombs galore. So
Well, I think Lightyear is one of the biggest
not-
problems.
Yo, dude, that one was diabolically huge. I mean, just gigantic bombs. Like seriously, I think I saw it going off all the way in Russia. That's how huge of a bomb that one was. It was
I mean, he's tried.
insane.
He's tried his hand at a couple other things. He was in Snowpiercer, but that's more of an ensemble deal, and he did
Again,
okay
yeah.
there. And there was this movie called Puncture, which was based on a real, true life story that was a smaller film, not an action film. It was really like the first time I'd seen him do something that was purely a drama, and he did okay there. I liked him okay there, but yeah,
He's
most of
good
his
in-
stuff.
He'd be good
Yeah.
in character actor bits, like we were saying, like Robert Downey Jr. But I agree with Price said it best. Robert Downey Jr. is a really good character actor who can lead a film.
Mhm.
Chris, on the other hand, is a decent character actor who probably couldn't lead a film to save his life. You need somebody like a Rock. You need somebody to be punny, like a Rock, to be a Rock. Therefore, I haven't seen Red One, but Andre enjoyed it. The people that have seen it said it's all right. And again, I've seen him pop up here and there. I don't think he'd have a problem for the rest of his career playing, like the main antagonist cop in like several action films or horror films and other things like in the Scream movies. He'd be the asshole detective. You know what I mean? He'd be perfect for those kind of roles. But at this point, I don't really give a fuck about him coming back to the MCU unless it's to play Captain America, putting those fucking stones back. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but you think he's gonna be playing a villain?
Come back. He gets still come back and probably play Cap. He'll probably end up doing both. If I had to make a prediction, he'll end up doing both characters. They'll have some weird way of how Johnny Storm lived, and maybe they'll even have like a Cliff Notes version of what he did during his time with Peggy, like summed up in a minute or two, and then he'll be in
That'll
action
piss me
probably
off.
against Doctor. Personally, I would rather that honestly. I know a lot of people want to know. I personally don't want that to be ever acknowledged, because then you start thinking, oh, well, what happened here? What happened there? Here's the thing. I think we can't assume that when he goes to alternate timeline that every event that he witnessed in his Marvel timeline also happened in his, because when you go to a different timeline, there are different variations of things. Some things are inevitable, so I can buy him somewhat going and doing that, because I'm not going to assume that 9/11 happened. I'm not going to assume that the Holocaust, unless they directly show me. Well, then I'm like, okay, well, now you're showing me this happening, you did nothing about it. Then to me, that's a problem. So I can forgive that. I just feel like I could see them doing that just to create a bigger problem, because they feel like they can pull it off, and they really should not. So
I see him coming as a cameo as president of the United States. Seeing him as like a major villain or something. I mean, Secret Wars and all that is going to be such a big movie. It's just going to be cameo city. So Captain Hydra, I don't know how they could set that up without it just being a one-off.
Yeah, that's our thing. He could be 3 roles. It could be all 3, just so they can have one last.
I think he's
jab.
done with Johnny Storm. I think that him being killed.
That was a
Johnny
one-off.
Storm and Deadpool.
Yeah,
he was already sent to the void. So at that point, I think it's going to be all Cap. I think it's going to be the Hydra version of Cap, because we all or a completely different character, much like how Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to be playing Doom.
Mhm.
So again, we have no idea. There's rumors flying and circling around. I don't think this article specifies either. Just says he's going to be in Doomsday, and that's about it. So yeah, so we have nothing real solid other than that. But are we surprised? No. There's some people who are even speculating that he might end up showing up in a surprise cameo in Captain America 4.
I've heard that too.
Oh, jeez.
Would it surprise me? No.
No.
I mean, they
'Cause he's there. You're
Yeah.
right. I mean, they have him die in the last movie, but I mean, depending on if they do like flashbacks or anything like that, I mean, there's things you can do that I wouldn't be surprised if the end of that movie sets him up, whatever it is he's coming back as.
He doesn't die in the last movie. He's just old. And in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, they never say he died.
Had the funeral.
No, that wasn't a funeral for Steve. That was not a funeral for Steve. That was.
I thought it was a funeral for Steve.
No, he just retired. That's all.
I could have swore they had a funeral for Steve. Or am I mixing that up with Peggy's funeral? I could be mixing it up with Peggy's funeral.
No, in Civil War, Peggy had died.
That might be what I was thinking of.
Yeah, they kept it very ambiguous as to where Steve was by the time we get to Falcon and Winter Soldier, so they didn't really say one way or the other.
Because I never fucking watched Falcon Winter Soldier.
Oh, good.
But all I know is ever since I saw the end of Endgame, when I saw Old Man Cap sitting there, I'm going, oh, there's a whole story here. Motherfucker went back 80 years and went all sorts of places to put these stones back, and then spent the rest of his life with Peggy. So what about before he decided to just, bunk up with Peggy in 40 something?
Mm-hmm.
What happened between there? Well, and like I said, I keep pointing out to people, this was also the way I thought they were going to be able to bring back Black Widow, because it makes sense. Yes, you have to leave something behind to take the stone, but nobody's probably ever returned the stone before. So if he returns the stone, does that mean when he gets Black Widow back?
I thought a great story would be. See, first off,
I thought that's what her movie was setting up. Is that she's alive.
I thought that was the point of her sacrifice, is that she's the one who doesn't come back from it all.
Well, what I thought would happen is, or what I hoped would happen was they were going to do a series that shows him going back and returning the stones, and that when he gets to the Soul Stone, he has to fight. The red. He has to fight the Red Skull for her soul. That's what I thought would happen. He and the Red Skull would have a throwdown. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I also knew it would be like the Red Skull would remind him that it's not the same Red Skull he knew.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's him, but it's not the same guy. He's got a completely different, job now and all that bullshit. But anyway, no, you're on the same page as me, Scribe. That's exactly what I was thinking, because that would be basically the centerpiece of the whole thing, right? Like the other stones aren't such a big deal when he goes to put them back. That's the big deal one.
Well, I thought the Red Skull. I thought the Red Skull would have been biding his time in this other universe for a while because that character doesn't change his stripes that easily. He might be like, "Oh yes, I'm just the keeper of the Soul Stone." He's plotting behind the scenes to get back or something.
I can see that.
And so when Captain America shows back up and he's got some kind of plot, yeah. So I was really hoping there was going to be some kind of final throwdown.
It's like, okay, we can fight, but if you lose, that means we swap places, basically, and you're now
right. Yeah. The prize is freedom from this realm or something, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, if you win, he gets Black Widow back, but if the Red Skull wins, then he gets to go free. See, now that's an interesting story, but Marvel wouldn't even dare trying to do that. And that's what the Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier show should have been, is that whole story. Like, if they would have kicked off the MCU TV shows with that fucking story, they'd have been firing on all cylinders.
Well, he should have never handed the shield to Sam in the first place. It should have gone to Bucky.
I fear how much worse the timeline would have been if we have seen, because once it could be right off into that thought of, because you're thinking, for me, having it open ended was best, because once again, we're assuming what events happened in an alternate timeline when we have yet to have anything to be seen for it. So that's why I said keeping the open ended is as ideal as it's probably not. Him going there, we can make an argue up and down, left, right about whether it's a good idea to do it. However, it's gonna be so much worse if we actually start knowing detail for detail what happened. Because then then we're like, oh great, what crisis events happen? What did he ditch? We don't know. I'd rather just have that be open, because we're going to be at a worse problem, and then we're going to say, why they make this show? Maybe under the hand of a really good writer, maybe, but man, that's still we're already treading water with time travel as we were with Endgame. Why muddy those waters even further?
Well, the problem is that nothing about the management of the MCU has changed. This is the thing. The upcoming movies, Doctor Doom and everything, either they are going to redeem themselves for the fans with a sort of soft reboot with the Fantastic Four, everything, or they're not. It's going to
be more than a soft reboot.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. But the thing is that the people at the helm are still exactly the same people, and so it might be the veneer of change, but I'm going to be amazed if it actually becomes something that we're excited about. I mean, we want it to work, right? We love this stuff so much. We want it to be fixed. We want something new, but we're all at least I'm very wary that without a sea change in management and vision, it's just going to be more of the same with a lot of, you can't avoid fan service, but if they don't start striking a different tone with these films and how they handle these characters, it's just going to fall apart again, and it'll be their fault and their folly.
Even if, at this point, here's the problem, is even if Kevin Feige does step down or step back and allow somebody else to kind of take over, we're still stuck in the same place that he was trying to get us when the Russo brothers said, no, you can't recast these guys. Because this is my prediction of what's going to happen. My prediction is we're going to get through this thing, and Secret War and all Doomsday, all that is going to be, along with the Fantastic Four, is setting us up to reset everything in kind of a soft, hard reboot. And I know that's an oxymoron, but my point is they'll present it as a soft reboot, but it will end up being a basic hard reboot. And from there on out, all the new characters are going to be played by new people, because that's what Kevin Feige wanted to begin with, because he was getting tired of paying Robert Downey Jr. all this fucking money and all these other guys. And his whole thing was, and I can't disagree with him to a point, like, you should almost just kind of, like, honestly, they should kind of do a complete reset, but from here on out going, look, the Marvel Universe is going to run like the Bond universe, basically. Right. That it'll just continue on. Eventually, like with Batman, somebody else will come in and play the role, but it's still technically the same character. The only way that works is if they drop multiverse. They have to drop interconnectedness. They have to make the film. Yeah. They have to make the films episodic, effectively standalone, and not interconnected. Otherwise, trying to rechange character or actors every two movies doesn't make any sense, and the continuity messes up. Yeah, you have to treat it like a Bond thing, and they have to drop the requirement of interconnectedness. It's done. It was done well, and then it fell apart. You might as well just can at that point. You might as well just can, because that was kind of the whole gist of what, especially before the MCU started. The whole gist was, let me get through this. Was that we can live in a world of movies
where these characters can interact with one another. That was the whole point of the original point of the MCU, is that we could live in a world where Captain America and Thor and the Hulk can all be in the same movie and have a continuity the same way we had in the comic books. Obviously, both are damaged goods beyond repair now, but that was the whole point. If you do the self-contained right, it pretty much isn't the MCU anymore. It's just, I guess, you'd have to give it a different ad point. It's just not the MCU.
Here's my argument against that. Daredevil season 1. Daredevil season 1. It's a story that exists within the MCU.
Yes.
Is parallel to it, but does not require interaction with other main characters and can still operate on its own
You
keel.
still had those movies in phase 3, and they were still in the MCU. You can watch Doctor Strange on its own and not have to interact with
Nick.
things. You can
That's the problem.
Yes, and that's still the MCU, but it's still the MCU.
Well,
still the MCU.
Here's the thing.
Doesn't make it a homework assignment, which is something I've used as an argument 800 times, that you can make something still be a part of a larger storyline. It shouldn't just have to be mandatory homework. It should be, as I've said, once again, you can look up receipts, that it should be an icing on the cake that, hey, I really like this. Where can I go for further context? Well, could go visit this show or this movie if you really like it that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem, is they were kind of doing the Marvel thing, but I agree with what Scribe and I are on the same page here, is like the shows should never affect the fucking movies, ever. Right? Like they should be, like the shows should be in their own little realm, to where if you want to go, look, that show was great, but we're going to use that character played by somebody completely different now, and nobody should flinch. Right? Like that's just how it should work. And now the shows can be affected by the movies all they want, but to me, like the individual movies should not be affected in any way, shape, or form by the grander scheme of things. The grand scheme of things is the Avenger films. That's your team up movies. That's where they get together, and you can do them kind of self-contained, and you can even do team up and buddy movies. And I hope that's the one lesson they learned from Deadpool and Wolverine, because the best part of that movie is it requires the least amount of homework to watch. And you can still enjoy it, and it feels like an actual Marvel comic book team up. Because I don't have to have read, I can be somebody who's just followed Deadpool forever and never read a Wolverine or X-Men comic and still enjoy it, or vice versa, right? Like, I know they're technically in the same, they're two technically are X-Men, but I'm using them as an example of how you could get Superman and Batman together, or Spider-Man and somebody else, take your pick here. Because that's the thing, is Spider-Man, as you said before, is somebody who is well known to team up with all these other people all the time, and that's fine. Team up movies are kind of where I feel like they lost, as much as people didn't like Thor 3. I'm like, this is the idea you guys should be running with, because now you have two of these guys together. They know each other. We already established this, but guess what? Nothing really in that movie affects anything else.
Yeah, it's inaccessible. Now, there are events of it that carry out into other things, but you don't have to know. Okay, maybe there's a slight misunderstanding, because what I got to ascribe initially was, when he says self-contained, I thought he meant 100% self-contained. Like, there's no.
No, but we're getting at is like
nothing.
Where you can.
I thought you guys were going more absolute.
No, I mean,
like
a lack of
1 and 2. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about a lack of dependency. In the sense that, so you have a Spider-Man movie happens, and maybe he's swinging by and he sees the Hulk fighting the Abomination, and he helps out for 5 seconds. He swings off. It doesn't mean that you have to have watched a Hulk movie to know what's going on there. It's just that these characters exist in a world that is ongoing and fluid, and is interconnected, but not dependent one story to the next in order to understand it. That's what you're talking about. You don't want a story with having to do homework. I want to be able to watch a Spider-Man movie like I'm reading a Spider-Man comic book. I can pick it up. It's a one thing. I don't have to have necessarily read every episode, every issue before, every issue after, but it's all understandable within the same setting, but it's not required reading that I see the entire thing.
Probably did it the best in a sense, and that's the beauty of it, is you actually have different people playing Batman, at least 3 different people in that series. But that's one thing that drove me nuts about The Flash, and having both Michael Keaton and George Clooney, and I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Even in a multiverse, it doesn't make any fucking sense, because you have the same character being played by 2 different actors. That shit happens. Guess what? That's the way this world can work from here on out. But you just keep it kind of self-contained. Do things from the previous movies somewhat affect things later on down the road? Yeah. But you know what? You can watch any one of the Batman movies, any one of them, and you don't have to have seen any of the other ones.
That's true. No. Yeah,
I'm talking about the OG ones, not the
Yeah,
Nolan
I think you're
series,
talking
but
I think we were just
you can
kinda
watch Batman and Robin and never have seen the first three, and it doesn't fucking matter.
That's true. That's true.
Same thing with Batman Forever.
Yeah, agreed. You can. I think I may have even seen Batman Forever first. I think that was my first one. It was either that or '89. Probably within.
It probably
like a month
was
of
because
each
there was
other.
kind of a new generation of crop of kids that came in with Forever.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember when I was in school. Forever was the talk of the town.
Because people forget that was 5 years after the first film. Or actually 6, technically, I believe. This is 95, so yeah, 6 years, I think. 89 to 95, yeah.
Holy crap.
But I mean, even Batman Returns you can watch technically without seeing the first film. Yeah, there's a crack about Vicky Vale and a few other things here and there.
It's very in passing. It's kind of like a quick, like, this is how we're going to
I wasn't the one who let Vicky into the Batcave, yeah.
That was a good way of saying, here's how we write her out of the story. We're just going to give her a quick acknowledgement that, those events happened, but
I was disappointed that she wasn't in the movie, but it was offset by Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman.
Well, and plus they acknowledged it. That was
at least they acknowledged it, and at least they understood that they needed.
And it was a
line
line for the fans, Price, because there were so many fans that were so pissed at Alfred for doing that. Even the original writer of the original script, before it got rewritten, said that is the day Alfred gets fired. It's like you cannot be just letting people randomly into the fucking Batcave, Alfred. That's not how this works. It's a clever joke.
To be honest, though, I understand Alfred. Vicky Vale was super hot. He just figured, this once I'm going to let it slide.
He's not that old, is what you're saying.
Right, he's not that old. Even with all this stuffy demeanor, he understood what he needed to do there. He was looking out for his boy.
So, how could I say no to her?
He knew Bruce was hanging out with like statues and like talking to himself. He just figured we need a lady to hang out here, and he was trying to look out for him. He was looking out for his bro,
Yeah, well, that logic, as soon as Michelle Pfeiffer shows up, Alfred would have shown her how to wear the bat suit.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, let me show. By the way, would you like to see his entire wardrobe?
Yeah, that first date would have been very interesting with Alfred, the way he is. He's like, by the way, he is Batman. I don't know if you knew this or not. But like,
I think Alfred likes to watch.
I think
he's a bit of a voyeur if you watch that shit.
Yeah.
I do think, though.
Hey, what do we do, Alfred, so we can make sure he can turn the neck around on his own suit? Oh, I didn't realize he does that.
I have a question. Who was more appealing, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale or Michelle Pfeiffer as
Michelle Pfeiffer by a country mile?
They have
Michelle Pfeiffer
yet to come up with a Catwoman that could
they can't come up one better than her.
She even topped Eartha Kitt and Julie Newmar. You're like, yeah, that's gonna be a hard sell. Yeah.
I don't know. Julie Newmar.
She's good, but and Eartha Kitt's great too. Don't get me wrong. Eartha Kitt might even be one of my favorites besides Michelle Pfeiffer. But Michelle Pfeiffer in that fucking skin tight fucking suit. Oh my god.
As Catwoman. You want to talk about like when I you want to know like when I was a lot of my friends at my age became men the day they saw that movie for obvious reasons.
And of course, let's not forget Lee Merriweather. Yeah. But yeah, no, like getting back to the topic that got us here in the first place is, I mean, that's where you even have that throwaway line in Batman and Robin where he's like, this is why Superman works alone. Like
somebody said something controversial.
Like Superman works alone. I love that when they made, even in Batman and Robin, they made a nod to Metropolis in Batman and Robin too. Oh, no, it was Forever. He made the nod to Metropolis because I think he said when Grayson was going out, I think bike riding, and he said how long the drive was, and he mentioned the distance from there to Metropolis. I was like, Superman.
Yep. Yeah, anyway,
by the way, somebody in the chat says that Nicole Kidman was better than Michelle Pfeiffer, who was better than Basinger. Now, don't get me wrong. Nicole
she's
Kidman.
A shrink.
No, Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever. That's Nicole Kidman in her prime. I will say that.
That is Nicole in her prime, but
that is the best. The best that Nicole Kidman ever looked was in Batman Forever. I still think that I like the other two better, but just on a Nicole Kidman scale, I think that in that movie she's looked the best she's ever looked.
She might look better. Oh God, look wise, and this is just a personal choice. She might look better than Kim Basinger in the first film. But that being said, like, yeah, no, Dr. Chase Meridian ain't got shit on Catwoman, and she even knows that. Like, she even says, "Do I need like skin tight leather and a whip to get your attention or whatever?" It's like, yeah, like that. If that isn't a clear BDSM, and that's the beauty of that Catwoman. Is they did, and look, I don't give a shit what anybody says, and that's the great thing about this time of the season for Batman Returns is the argument of whether or not it's a Christmas movie. In my opinion, it's the definitive version of both the Penguin and the Catwoman. They have yet to come up with better versions than that. And I know it's unpopular because that is a very different version of the Penguin than we've ever seen before, but I like the mutant circus boy version of the Penguin. I do. I so do, and that's
Colin
my personal
Farrell's
choice.
Penguin is just I'd almost put it into the same level as Heath Ledger's Joker as like a reinterpretation of the character that really clicks.
I never really liked him as a gangster though, because it's like you got 20 gangsters already. The Joker is pretty much a gangster.
Yeah, well, it depends on how you look at the Joker, but no, I mean, I really like Danny DeVito's take on it, the
That's
sort of
just
mutant
it,
penguin
yeah.
thing, and it is much more in line with, relatively speaking, the look of the character, sort of from the comic books, at least the top hat and kind of wobbly and kind of outcast. But I I was really taken with Colin Farrell's take on it, so I don't know, it might be even Stevens in my mind for which of the two Penguins I like the most.
I know it's unpopular opinion, but to me, like the gangster version of the Penguin is my least favorite version. I'd prefer the more cartoony fucking Burgess Meredith version over what we got now. Because to me, I get it.
Love
But
the
to
Burgess
me, it's like
Meredith
if you're
take.
gonna just have him be a
So good.
gangster, you might as well just be Falcone. Right? Like to me, it's like if he's just gonna be your standard typical gangster. Because to me, the beauty of the Penguin is he's a gangster who nobody ever believes that he is one or is in that much control. And that's what I love about, if he's not a creature like he is with Danny DeVito version, like when he becomes the mayor, that's always one of the more popular storylines, right? Because he's always presented himself in this way that, to me, that's kind of what my resistance is to the Colin Farrell version of the character. And I get it. People love it. But to me, it's like he might as well just be Falcone. He might as well just be some other random fucking gangster because there's nothing special about him. But when he's manipulating everybody, especially the system, the way that he does, because that's one of the more popular things about the Penguin back in the day from my memory of the older version was that he was the one who was always smart enough to outsmart Batman until the very end in some way, shape, or form because Batman never knew what the fuck he was up to, but he knew he was up to something. And it was in a way that he could manipulate the system usually. Right? Like that's where the Penguin came in. And it wasn't like a gangster thing. Like he wasn't doing the typical gangster rob the bank or, do a racketeering job type of thing. It was always something that was outside of the box a bit.
There was one trade paperback sort of one-off Penguin thing they did when the second movie came out that was more in tune with the comic books, and the interpretation was the Penguin wanted to be the gentleman bandit, but because of his because of his physical appearance, he never had any self-confidence. He's not the handsome man that he wanted to be.
That's another very popular Penguin storyline that they've done a couple times,
he wanted to be the smart gentleman bandit who was the high society art thief, this, that, and the other, who was always like playing higher than his station would allow him because of his appearance and his voice and everything else. And there was a certain amount of sympathy for that kind of character, but he also became not as villainous as you would want a Batman villain to be to a certain point. Not necessarily, murderous.
I get what you're saying, but his thing is like in those, he's usually either replacing the paintings with fakes or there's always some scheme behind it. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I loved about Batman Returns is even though that's such a very different version of the character, I love that, and that's what makes him the Penguin is like Batman knows he's up to something. Yeah, he thinks he's searching for his parents, or that's what everybody thinks he is, but Batman knows he's up to something else, which he is. He's taken down every single firstborn of Gotham City. So like that's what he's doing. He's going through all the records, right? That's a Penguin thing to do. Like he's always a step above, step beyond, step around something until the Batman catches up with him. That to me is the Penguin, right? Mm-hmm. That the Riddler does his riddles. The Joker has his jokes. Two-Face can't decide if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. Catwoman wants to fuck him most of the time. Same thing with Poison Ivy, but she'd rather kill him. Like, that's kind of the whole setup, right? Like, I kind of get the basis of where these characters lie in Batman's life. And for me, it's like gangsters are gangsters. He goes up after gangsters all the fucking time. Falcone's already a gangster. I mean, when Talia al Ghul comes in, she's kind of a gangster in a way. So, like, yeah.
No, Batman needs to go against characters like Clayface. He needs to actually have a supernatural version of Ra's al Ghul that actually deals in the supernatural. He needs to have movies where he faces off against those characters instead of the 900th. And trust me, I say that as a fan of the Penguin show, as a fan of the Falcons, the Maronis, the Two-Faces. I like all those characters. But I would love for some of the odder, crazier Batman villains to be in these movies. I would love to see it happen. That's another thing. Like Nightwing, we have not even scratched the surface. And yes, I don't count Crystal Donnell name dropping the term Nightwing as scratching the surface. It was nothing more just a hey, look, or some names.
We have had enough of the main bad guys for Batman. I agree.
Well, it's like Batman to a lot of the, once again, not gonna say all, but to what seems to be a lot of the Hollywood directors, it seems like here's my take on Batman becoming Batman and how we can also have my take on the Joker. Well, let's forget that there's all these other great villains that have never been used. We have yet to have a Killer Croc story. We have yet to get a Clock King story. I would love to see these characters utilized. There's so many great, cool. You can even do a cool. Granted, he's a more human character, but you could still make him for like a one scene villain. KG Beast. You could do something there. There's so many great villains like the Flash, like Spider-Man. There's a whole great list of villains. The ventriloquist isn't our great one. The doll. That's a creepy thing to go. Is the guy that crazy, or his doll is just his doll just absolutely batshit crazy, like once again, I know it's a gangster, but the doll definitely adds that inhuman element to it. So I do like that as well. There's so many great characters, and we're just absolutely ignoring them all. We're just ignoring them because Vidiot said Killer Croc is this guy. That doesn't count for me. That movie does not exist. To me, we need an actual Killer Croc.
No, I agree. There's too many times. And not only that, there hasn't been as many good team ups as there could be. Speaking of team ups,
we still haven't even gotten a proper movie with Bane yet. We still have yet to get the Latino guy who is super gigantic and 10 foot tall, looking up in the sky. Yeah. Like we need a comic accurate Bane. I would really appreciate that. There's so many characters. I've not even listed like 20% of the villains. I'm just
Batman has probably the greatest, arguably the greatest rogues gallery of all comic book heroes. But Brian, how would I describe the Riddler real quick? Basically, Riddler is the only guy. Yeah, he's self-defeating. He's the only guy who's probably as smart, or maybe even smarter than Bruce Wayne, but his own hubris always gets in the way.
Yep, that's
his downfall.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, there's kind of like, look, basically all the villains are, and Scribe might know, because there was a great documentary they put out a couple years, almost 2 decades ago now, maybe, or more, or less than, I mean, maybe a decade, on History Channel or something like that, where they basically broke down all of the Batman villains and broke them down like a psychologist would, and it tells you each and every one of their diagnoses. Do you know the one I'm talking about, Scribe? Or
I may have seen. I've seen similar things about going over each character and what it represents.
They even go through Bruce Wayne too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and how each one is in some way a foil to some aspect of the Batman character. Yeah. So you have like Two-Face, which is the duality between Batman being a vigilante, but also wanting to be on the side of the law. And you got the Joker, that's chaos versus his order. It's always some element of Batman's makeup. The villain plays a specific foil to a shard of how Batman works. Yeah,
it might have been on the Dark Knight or Batman Begins extras, actually. So yeah, as John Evan points out here. But real quick, we got some super chats to get through, and I think we're going to get out of here. I Cthulhu sends in 5 and says, "Can we talk about how Cap didn't even co-sign Falcon's loan application?"
Oh God, that was so weird in the Falcon Winter Soldier TV show. He goes
Why
to the
did they
bank for a
actually say
loan.
that he denied to sign it or what? Like,
Oh yeah, no. He went there to get a loan to help out his family's business to try to save
know
it,
that,
and they were
yeah.
like, I'm sorry, but blah blah blah. It's about the collateral and everything else. The guy's sitting there like, I just saved the world from being destroyed by Thanos.
That would have never happened. That would have never
Exactly.
happened. Not only that, he could have taken like a social media kind of Instagram thing and gone and said, "Hey, my sister's boat has a hole in it because you guys all come here and help me." And I'm telling you, like, people would line up to take pictures with him, donate, whatever it is. That hole in that stupid shrimp boat would have been fixed in 5
not
minutes.
only that, you call fucking what's his face over at
Yeah,
fucking
Happy
Iron
or
Man
whatever it
Pepper
is.
Potts.
Yeah,
Pepper
you call
Potts would have
Pepper
bought the whole
Happy,
family thing.
yeah.
Yeah, she would have bought him a new boat that would fly, for God's
Right,
sake.
exactly. We
The
added some
fuck?
modification to the boat. Now you can fly to
You know the
Brazil.
At that point, he knew the fucking king of Wakanda.
Yeah, exactly.
He was personal friends with the king of Wakanda.
It's like, hey, can you float me? Can you float me a little money there? It's like, I will give you a vibranium boat. Okay.
I don't know. You don't have any collateral.
Yeah, exactly. Collateral. I saved the fucking universe. Okay.
I mean, come on. And not only that, it's like collateral. Why didn't he just slam the fucking wings or the fucking shield down on the goddamn counter? Like,
Yeah.
I seriously think that if he would have made a call to somebody in the military, they would have been like, "Hey, we have this extra boat." There's like basically every single person that he would have called would have gone and gotten him a boat. He could have gotten a fleet of boats. A fleet.
There's
By the end of
probably
the day, he
extra
has a
boats
fleet.
sitting over at Shield. Exactly. Yeah. Samuel Jackson be like, take whichever one you want. Like,
I got an extra helicarrier over here in mothballs. You want that?
yeah. While you're at it, why don't you try out this? Test drive this. Yeah.
Jesus.
That is the dumbest shit I ever heard when I heard that. I mean,
That show was terrible. That show was just terrible.
And I Cthulhu says Marvel needs to go away for a decade. I mean, I'm not saying that wouldn't help. But I don't think that's necessarily the answer per se. And then 6 is in the house. How you doing, 6?
Hey, 6, how's it going?
Sends
I
us
feel
in a
like
little
6 doesn't
hippo.
like me anymore.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I never hear from 6 anymore. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
She's been really just kind of, I think, doing her own thing, and I think working a lot and what have you. So no, she pops in from time to time. Hopefully you're doing well, 6, but yeah. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, has been a member for 17 months. It says, good stories and cliffhangers. Why is it getting harder to write good stories and give reasons to anticipate the next installment? For me, Marvel Overload had me checked out of the MCU like a hot flash. Well, part of the problem is movies shouldn't be this way. I know everybody's going to like, what do you mean? It's like, no, that's television or serials.
Go
Like,
on.
movies should be self-contained stories. That's why the first phase of the MCU is brilliant. None of the other films have anything to do with anything else. When Robert Downey Jr. pops up at the end of the Hulk, it doesn't fucking matter. You can watch that movie without that scene. That scene doesn't play into the rest of the film. That's just kind of a little wink, wink. We're going to do
like a
something
little
later down the
teaser,
road.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of exactly how it's set up in all the films. The only one where it's more prominent is with S.H.I.E.L.D. in Iron Man, basically.
That's what made
But,
Avengers special, that you suddenly had all these people working together. It was great.
Well, I knew this was going to be a problem because this always is a problem when this happens. Because we already saw it on the CW with Smallville, and then again with their, all they did a little bit more successfully with their whatever you would call it, the Arrowverse, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it was called, the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
What a
but
terrible name.
It ended horribly, and had a lot of the same problems that I've foreseen with the Marvel Universe, and that is crumbling under the weight of itself. Even the comics had this problem, because how many times have they had to reset, Nick?
Oh God, dude, where's Clobby when I need him? Where he can go off about it's
Be like,
dude,
they have reset more than 3 or 4 times already, Tom. Like, yeah,
timelines have already been reset. Like, no, I wasn't alive when Crisis of Infinite Earths was reset. And right when you thought that they wiped the slate clean on the problem, rather than actually wipe it clean, they just found everything to replace it and well, do the same thing and be back at square one. What, a year or two later? And then then they were doing initiatives, what seemed to be like, especially in the 2000s, really in the 2010s. Like, I guess would you consider Marvel Knights an initiative?
I guess.
It's hard to say. I mean, yeah.
For the sake of the conversation, let's say yes.
Yeah, we'll just say yes. And even then, it was every 5, 7, 8 years. But then the 2010s happened, and it was every year to 2.
That's true.
Oh,
so many
man, that
ones.
was taken to such a crazy extreme. You had Marvel Now, all new Marvel Now, all new, all different Marvel. And then all of a sudden, all these woke. Yeah, then all of a sudden you have all these like events that would come out that were being sequels to events that all happened in the 90s and 2000s. It's absolutely crazy. And then they were having these characters, these replacement characters, come up at a time where the MCU movies were at the peak. Like, you had a Captain Hydra comic come out when Civil War came out as a movie. You had Riri Williams being Ironheart in a comic called Invincible Iron Man. Everything was so back. I remember, okay, one example. I remember I was at it, and this is not MCU related, but this is Marvel related, so it's very important. And I still blame my retailer partially for this at the time. I was at a shop that I used to go to, and Logan came out. And I remember when that movie came out, I went to my shop, and I overheard my retailer talking to the kid. And the kid was coming in for Wolverine comics. And right away, my retailer already ruined it. When he said, which Wolverine you looking for? He said, we currently have 2 Wolverine comics, and the actual Wolverine is dead right now in the universe. I can already tell this kid's face was puzzled. So you're walking a shop, you have no knowledge of comics, you're being told that the Wolverine is dead in the universe. However, there's a female Wolverine comic, and then there's a version of an old man Logan running around a comic that's based off the Mark Miller version from a non-continuity story. Guess what happened? That kid ended up leaving the store buying nothing. Nothing. That's how they lost customers. When the Avengers came out, the first movie, they had the right idea. Get those characters together from that first movie, make it a comic. Well, guess what happened when they put out that comic? They had 9 other comics with Avengers titles in it. Avengers, New Avengers, Diet Avengers, Avengers Arena, Avengers Doing Fitness. That's not literal, by the way. I'm making a point here. They put out all these titles, and you're pushing people away. Right at 2 points where they could have gotten new customers, and they push people away because they oversaturate. And that's why even comic fans got burned out on Deadpool, because everything and everyone had Deadpool in it. Deadpool this, Deadpool that, Deadpool on ass push, Deadpool eats Tootsie Rolls. Everything was Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, we got to get out of here, though. Well, at least Scribe does for now. Bebop Boop asks, Vicky Vale, Selena Kyle, Chase Meridian, or Pamela Isley? Who was the hottest bat chick? I'll even throw in Silverstone. Well, that poor girl. You could pick Kyle. So, yeah, you're going to be leaving us. So we'll come back to this in just a second for the rest of us. Scribe, I'm going to let you get out of here, though. Real quickly, plug all your stuff.
Sure. So I got a show every Thursday night on my channel called TED Excellence at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where I take a look at TED Talks of various interesting subjects. We play TEDx bingo with the audience and try to learn something and work on our critical thinking skills. So that'll be happening. And then Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, I have my Sunday stream where I talk about the news of the week and all that good stuff. And there may be various other streams in between because a lot of stuff's been going on lately. And I'm also experimenting with streaming on X occasionally, so we'll see about that. But that's that, and appreciate you guys having me on, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one, and hope everybody has a good rest of their Tuesday and week. And nice seeing you, Tom, CC, Price, and Nick, and I'll see you next time.
Sorry for holding you up, Scribe.
No, it's all right.
I forgot you had to go. I take full responsibility for that.
Getting caught up in a subject you're passionate about and babbling, I have no idea what that's like, Nick. How dare you? I'm kidding. obviously.
No worries.
Bye.
Take care. All right. Beat Bop Boop asks us again. Vicky Vale, Selena Kyle, Chase Meridian, or Pamela Isley, and throwing in Silverstone. So I'm assuming you mean by the actresses. I still got to stick with Selena Kyle and Michelle Pfeiffer on that. Although Uma's pretty good, and I got to agree with you guys earlier. Were saying that at that point that is definitely peak Nicole Kidman. But what about you, CC? You're talking, but I can't hear you, and you're not muted on our end, so you must be muted on your mic. Okay, either that or he's not even at his desk, and he's muted at his mic. So Price, what is your choice?
What is my choice between all of these?
Yeah.
Vicky Vale, Selena Kyle, Chase Meridian, or Pamela Isley, even Silverstone. Really tough between Vicky Vale and Selena Kyle. I guess Selena Kyle, but if I gave it to Selena Kyle, it would be like I'd give Vicky Vale like the 9.7 and like Selena Kyle like a 9.8. Like they're both great.
All right, Nick.
Mad Mardigan.
Nice.
Oh shit! So what's your choice, CC?
This is right over my head. I got no idea.
Any of the ladies it's basically all the ladies from the Batman films, and I'm sure you've seen the Batman films. So Kim Basinger, Michelle Pfeiffer, Nicole Kidman, Uma Thurman, or Alicia Silverstone. Which one?
Well, any list with Michelle Pfeiffer on it automatically goes to Michelle Pfeiffer.
I think that's the proper answer.
I don't see her on this particular list on the screen here, so that's why I was like,
she's Selena Kyle.
Yeah, but it doesn't say Michelle Pfeiffer.
No, but he's asking.
I know what you're saying, but...
Come on.
Anyway, SFX F314 Sabretooth Raptor sends it to and says, Plane, Trains, and Culture Casino. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because in just under an hour, about 45 minutes, Nick and the boys will be talking about planes, trains, and automobiles. I'm going to try and join them, although I do have a video that needs to be finished up. So we'll see if
get your video done first, and then
we'll see what happens here. I'm kind of waiting on Pablo right now, so we'll see. So I might bop in first and then leave early. So we'll see.
You are welcome to do that, man.
So this will lead over to that. So check that out. And then SFX F314 Sabretooth Raptor says, rather watch Section 8 with Corporal Klinger than Section 31. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that trailer was abysmal. What'd you guys think of the Section 31 mess?
I did not.
Star Wars or Star something?
Star Trek with Michelle Yeoh.
I don't know. The last time I really bothered with Star Trek was when they canceled the fan films. I have not I have not spent any time on it ever since then. So it's when I left.
Oh, if you're gonna bring in Drew Barrymore, then you got to bring in Debbie Mazur too, or whatever, and I'd pick her over Drew any day. Even now, probably. That's her name, right? I know. I think that's how you say it. She was in Entourage and a bunch of other shit too. Yes, Debbie. Yes. Anyway, with that, I think we're gonna roll on out of here. What do you got coming up, Price? I'm sure you got a late show tonight.
Yeah, there's the Night Owl, and people that are on YouTube, they can watch it on my live channel, which many people don't know about. So again, Price of Reason Live. Be cool if you wanted to subscribe to that one. On my regular channel, there was something weird. Weird. It actually fits. I did this video on Rachel Zegler's flop of a movie. I did a little video on that because I actually saw the movie, and initially it was doing well, and suddenly it went from views to like 0 views. So if you have no idea, it's so weird. I mean that happens almost weird. It happens to almost every video anyways, but I'm saying this one just happened really quickly. That's why it was just unexpected. But if you want to see my thoughts,
I think the shines wore off is what it is mainly.
I guess,
Like-
but usually the Shine, there's like, you know, you got a 24 to 48 hour window of Shine. Here, like there was a
Yeah.
few hours of Shine, and then just I don't know.
Well, I
It
meant for the
happens once in a
movie
while.
in general. Like, I mean, I think
What'd you
it's
say?
really
Oh,
like
you're
yesterday's
saying
news already.
so
Yeah.
sick of her. They don't even want to click on it. It's possible. But in
Yeah.
any case, I thought it was a good movie review, and if people want to check it out, it's on my main channel.
Yeah, do check it out, guys. And we got 6 sending in a pooper sticker. As she does.
Poop.
Hey.
Thank you for the pooper sticker. CC, what you got going on? We ever gonna do karaoke again?
I don't know. I'm getting real closer to death. It's my birthday tomorrow.
Fuck. Oh
I'm
no!
entering a new
Well, happy
decade.
birthday tomorrow.
Oh, it gets more depressing by the year.
Well, happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. I don't know when karaoke's coming back. Honestly, at the moment, I don't have any subscription to these services, like StreamYard or Restream right now, and I'm broke, so we'll see. But I'm hoping in the new year, once I've got my shit more together with finances and all that, we'll see.
Cool. Indeed. So thank you so much, guys, out there for being here. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. It is free. We appreciate it. And with that, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Goodbye.